I've got to say, I've just seen an hour ago a post that you are celebrating 8 years with your lady, and I hope that you're not recording a podcast when you should be out for dinner, because I'm going to be in so much trouble.
No, you're all good. You're all good. We were going to do something tonight, but because we've spent the whole weekend in the city and a lot of money, we're like, that's our anniversary. So it's fine. It's all good.
How's the body today?
Yeah, just chilling out. It's good, actually. Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, a little bit slow getting up off the chairs and stuff, but when I get moving, I'm fine. A little bit sore in the quads, but that's about it, really. Yeah.
What did you end up running in? They were Mizuno.
Yeah, they're Mizuno. Oh, I can't remember the news. They got one shoe's blue, one's yellow. Bit fancy.
Oh, dude, that is fancy. Yeah, and the reason I ask it's really interesting just hearing. It's becoming less and less surprising, I reckon, hearing from marathon runners or speaking to marathon runners who are pulling up really well. So I'm still in a mindset that it's going to take weeks to see full recovery. But I mean, it's so interesting. I don't know how closely you've looked at athletes like Brett Robinson and other world class athletes, but the turnaround seems unbelievable for marathons at the moment.
Yeah, and I didn't even do the full blown super shoe. I was in the one down, because I haven't really run in the super shoe yet, and I know the stability is a bit of a thing you got to worry about. So I went the one down, and that was super good. They're so quick, and it surprises me. The last time I ran a marathon was not in these sort of shoes, and it took the whole week to get real good.
Yeah. What year officially was your first marathon?
My first one was 2014, and yesterday was Sunday was my 6th. So I've done 6 now.
Oh, you've done 6 marathons?
Yeah. But my first 2 were quick, and the others were plagued with injury.
Sure. So when did you run 3:28? Okay. Interesting.
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I reckon we'll start here. Let's start here, and we'll delve into the details of that. So Sunday, Melbourne Marathon, 3 hours, 21 minutes, and I've got it up on my phone.
30 seconds.
30 seconds on the dot.
Yeah, give or take, I think, yeah.
Sure. 6.5 minute PB. I am so interested. I know I spoke to you after the race on Sunday. Let me handball it to you. You walk me through the day before, the morning of, and then let's have a look at the race. You explain to me what's going on. And then I thought it'd be interesting for people to hear a little bit about your lead up, because I reckon your lead up is it's a really good lead up to use as an example of what can be achieved, or what a great result can be achieved through. Because I would say we didn't have the absolute smoothest lead up in the end. It turned out to be,
certainly not.
It was very smooth for a long time, and then you handled a hiccup well, and then it was very smooth, and then there was a trip to Thailand, and then there was a good race result. And so it's a fun conversation to have, because I think not only did you handle the actual, that you didn't just handle the actual roller coaster of a marathon build up really well. You ended up running a really big PB off the end of it. And I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself. We'll get to that in a minute. So it's 24 hours before the race. You and your lady have made your way into Melbourne. You're ready to roll. Walk us through it.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wanted to set up really well for this one. So months ago, we booked the Saturday night in the city because I'm about an hour train ride out. And I'm so glad we did that, because it turns out the trains weren't running that day. So it would have been a chaotic drive in. So we stayed the night before, just so that I could get up at a nice hour, and I just sort of got dressed, walked down to the start line. It was really quite relaxed. I felt really good. Like, it was probably the most relaxed build up before a marathon that I've done. And I think that had a lot to do with it. But the night before we went out for a token pasta meal. Got all the carbs in I possibly could, and then ate some calves as well. Just got an early night, had a nice rest, and then wandered down. It was quite a nice morning though. Like, it got a little bit of drizzle before the start, which was annoying. But once the starter's gun went off, it was perfect conditions for running. Yeah, it was really good.
So talk us through. You were saying that the start was interesting as well, because you were surrounded by a whole heap of people who shouldn't be part of the start line. where you were, which is always the case when you've got 10,000 runners next to each other. There's always a couple of people going, I'm not really sure where I should be. And you explain, I mean, you can't tell this when you look at your first 5K splits, but that first K was probably a little chaotic by the sound of it.
Probably almost like, because it goes Batman Avenue, not many people will know Melbourne, but it's pretty tight roads all the way through, and you go into Flinders Street, which is tight, and it's full of tram tracks, and then you do another sharp turn, and there's more tram tracks, and it's just all bottleneck. So the first sort of K and a half, there were people that were, I don't know, probably should have been way back at the 5-hour pacer. And that's just the excitement of the day. People want to get up as close to the starting bell, and Steve Monaghetti was there ringing the bell. So there was a lot of excitement. So I think everyone just wanted to be part of it. But once that gun went off, it took 5 to 10 minutes just to get some clear air. There's a lot of dodging and weaving. There were a few people falling over around me. So that was quite intense. And that really hurt the start. I was like, oh no, this is going to be, it's a long marathon. So I didn't panic, but I was like, in my head, I was like, geez, 30 seconds when you're chasing PBs, it means everything, like 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there. It can really get to you. So it was a lot of self-talk in that first 2Ks of like, just shut up. It's going to be okay. You'll get through it. There's some good downhill sections that'll be easy. You'll be fine. So that was a bit of a challenge, but it wasn't unexpected. It was just a bit worse than I thought it would be, I suppose.
How chaotic was it?
It's not the worst race I've done before like that. There's some trail runs that are like really bad because they go to single trail really quick. So there was a bit of room to move, but people were having to jump up on footpaths and sort of ducking and weaving through spectators at points because it was just a lot of people that were really slow. And then there were the people who think they're much faster than they are, and they were sprinting past. Which I always like because I love seeing them go past, and I'm like, righto, take note of your shoes, and I'm going to pick you off at about 30 kilometers. I'm going to track you down. So yeah, it's good. It was pretty hectic, but it was all right.
A couple of just broader questions before we boil down to more specific ones. In terms of the fueling and hydration, you said the night before you got out had a bowl of pasta. Like, how did you feel the actual fueling part of it went? Were you happy with how you felt sort of energy wise? Did you feel heavy? Did you feel good? Do you think you nailed it? Was there room for improvement?
I actually think it was I can't say perfect, but I felt really, really comfortable with not only the build up. The couple of days beforehand I started to really build up the carb load, and then went pretty hammer and tong at it on Saturday. And I was expecting to wake up in the morning feeling real groggy and heavy because sometimes you do. But I think I got the balance right. So I woke up in the morning feeling like full of energy. My legs were like, had that twitch in them, that excitement in them. But the stomach didn't feel full. So I knew I wasn't going to get like an upset gut about 20 Ks in. I felt really comfortable. It was, really awesome. I was stoked with it. So, and then on the race, I had my gels and, that sort of stuff with me. So that was good too. But
did you take 6 gels out with you, did you say?
Yeah. So 6 gels. I just had one every half an hour because that's what I've been sort of doing in training for the whole block. And it's pretty much the golden rule of marathons, nothing new on race day. So it was the same boring flavour that I'm used to. It was the same intervals. I think I'm not going to have them for a couple of months now. I think I might just take a banana out or something if I need to go for a long one because I'm pretty sick of the flavour. But they got me through. They did the job. Yeah. They definitely pushed the wall out. I didn't hit the wall as early as I have in previous races.
Yeah. And in terms of your hydration, were you just using the Melbourne Marathon tables, the ones they had available? You didn't have anyone out there handing you drinks. Unfortunately, for everyone listening, I couldn't make it in to the Melbourne Marathon, so I would have been the man who ideally would have been passing drinks. I know, what a shame. We're still yet to meet face to face, which is the strangest thing. Is we've had so much success over the last 12 months, and yet we haven't met each other face to face. I've just recently started coaching a bloke who ran the Melbourne Marathon. He ran the half marathon. On the weekend, and he said he's coming up to Ocean Grove in a couple of weeks. So if I meet him after 3 weeks of coaching him, JR, is his name. If I meet him after it'll be an absolute shame. You're due for a coastal trip. I think
am
Scream's
actually.
8 years is a good place to bring your lady.
Yeah, that's
for an
true.
anniversary.
That's true.
But anyway, that's just a long tangent to apologise for the fact that I wasn't there by your side. You had to rely on the volunteers at the Melbourne Marathon tables handing you waters and Gatorades.
Yeah, they're absolute heroes. It was good. It was sort of, I think the first water was 3Ks in, which was, and I know in my head that I knew that, but when it came up, I was like, gee, that was quick. So that kind of really that makes you pretty comfortable. There's going to be a lot of water. Gatorade as well was on offer. So I think I've perfected the art of crushing the paper cup to make it a funnel so you don't end up with it all over your face. That's a skill that I've been honing for the last couple of years. So most of the water they offered, I was able to get down, which is good.
That is a win. Good. It's harder. Yeah. It's harder to do than it is to say. I made a YouTube video on this like 3 years ago, and it's not the most popular one, but I think it's had a few thousand views. Yeah. And I'm like, that's interesting to me. I thought when I made that 47 people would watch it, and I thought it's interesting that a couple of thousand people have at least had that question enough to Google it or to YouTube it or whatever. So it's funny. I've had my fair share of just breathed in waters that have sort of ended up on the ground with me getting about 25 mils.
Yeah, and that's a nightmare because that coughing fit can really hurt you.
It's so embarrassing as well.
Yeah.
So we went into the race with the plan of we were a little not conservative, but we were cautious. Like we were. My only advice to you really was with regard to the actual race was stuff that you knew yourself. I mean, you coach athletes yourself. You've got your own running coaching business. It's not like it's all news, but sometimes it's nice just to have another bloke person to bounce ideas off. And my only advice or my only thoughts were, hey, let's just not get caught up too much in the adrenaline, the momentum, the excitement of the race, and take out those first couple of Ks in 4 minutes flat when the pace that we want to hold for the marathon is 4 minutes 45. And so with that said, I was an absolute pain in the ass to my wife all Sunday morning. I know we laughed because I woke up, I had the app ready to go, and I was going through your splits. So let's go through the splits. So they're for everyone listening, they're operated or they're broken down into 5K intervals with a couple of random ones.
Yeah,
I'll ask you about in a minute. So the first update came through at, I'll tell you my thoughts as they went through, and then you tell me what was going on.
Yeah.
The reality. So at 7:01, you've officially started the race. It says you've crossed that line, 7:01 and 6 seconds.
Yep.
Which is interesting. I'm not sure how they work those times, but that suggests that you were across that start line officially 1 minute and 6 seconds after the gun actually went.
Pretty much, I reckon that's exactly what's happened because Monaghetti he's always on time. So you can set your watch to him. He rang that bell at 7 o'clock on the dot. So it took me that long to get through to the start line. So,
24 minutes and 1 second later, which is 4 minutes and 49 second pace. So 4 seconds off, but we'll give or take 5 to 10 seconds these first couple of Ks. We really don't care. The idea is just find your feet, get some rhythm, don't stress. We've got so much time in at this stage, we still have 37 Ks left to make up any time. 4:49s. My thoughts were, okay, he's obviously just finding some rhythm. He's finding his feet. I did think a little bit about the fact you might have been dodging and weaving. I don't think I realized at that time how far back in that field you were and how much dodging and weaving was going on. But you're feeling good. 4:49s. You're happy?
I was pretty comfortable. And I think that's when I noticed a lot of people whizzing past me, and I was like, whilst I am trying to get through the crush of the crowd, I also don't want to be that person who ran past me at 3-minute 20 kilometers because that's not worth it either. So I had to kind of sit in that balance of feel comfortable, sit the shoulders down, stop the tension, get it out of your body, and just let the crowd open up. Whilst also having that mild panic attack in the back of my mind, thinking 30 seconds could kill me. So yeah. It's a real balance, but yeah, it was just that crush. So, and the 5 seconds off the time, I was kind of happy just to sit there. I knew that it was under control. So yeah, pretty accurate. That first couple of kilometers was mostly just the crush of the people.
For sure. Then we go through 10K, and your average for that 5K period from 5K to 10K is 4:51.
Yep. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, that's a bit more comfortable. Again, it was just that sort of staying conservative, just letting the body tick over, knowing full well that there was room if I needed to push towards the end. I could get that pace back up. So yeah, it was pretty comfortable. There was no danger there.
Now, this is where my conversation started to get a little more interesting because, as I said, I was offering running commentary to Jesse, who's at our house, could not care less about the sport of distance running, was not interested in any of my commentary, had no concern for you and your well-being, just did not care. You'd get along well with her, but your running career, she doesn't care about it. And if it makes you feel any better, she didn't care about mine either. But here's where it got interesting. So we knew that 4:45 was where we wanted to see you.
Yes.
My commentary here when I saw the next one was like, all right, don't get too excited.
Mm-hmm.
This is me speaking to you from Point Lonsdale.
Yep.
You've averaged 4:40 for the next 5Ks, which has pretty much brought you back down to around our race pace.
Yep.
But I'm thinking, okay, I have an interesting feeling. I know where this is heading because it's early enough in the race to fool yourself that you're going to run 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Yep.
And it's early enough to feel good and go, yeah, no, I'm back. So 4:40s, I was happy with that, but I had an asterisk next to it because I was like, okay, I hope he doesn't get any ideas here and starts running away.
Yeah.
But that sounds as though the package just opened up. You'd started to find a real rhythm. You were warm.
Yeah, and I have to admit, your voice is in my head for a solid 90% of this run, particularly when those numbers were rolling down, and that's okay. And I was thinking, I'm sitting at 4:40s. Tyson's going to be screaming at me because he knows what the plan is, but once we hit the 10K, it's kind of, you're running around Albert Park Lake. It's real flat. It's open. I kind of just hit a bit of a zone and had a little bit of a kick, fully aware that I didn't want to go overboard, but I think I just cleared that pack and got into my rhythm. So, and then I was able to scale it back a little bit later on.
Sure.
But I did have you in my head. Yeah, that was it. It was exactly right. I felt great.
And so this one was a little deceptive because it took me a minute to get my head around it. So it's 15K. The next split they give you is 16.9K. And I've looked at this and I've said, okay, here we go. He's having an absolute crack because the average split went from, so not forgetting the 5Ks before your 4:40 average was 4:51. Yep. And then you've gone from 4:40 down to 4:32. So you've just dropped another 8 seconds off the average. And I've thought, okay, this is very interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what's going on there.
Yeah.
And then at the 20K mark, I'll do these at once because obviously it's like a scattered. I see a 5:09, and that's the average from 17Ks to 20Ks. And I've said to Jesse, I was like, all right, I'm hoping this is a toilet break because otherwise a drop like that suggests I had no fear that there was any wall being hit that early because I'd seen how well you're training and how consistent you train. I knew that wasn't an issue. But I was concerned that either the only real concern I had was injury. I was thinking, okay, he's had to run into the loo or he's dealing with some kind of a cramp or an injury or something I don't know about. Because we saw from 4:32, you dropped to 5:09.
Yeah, it was tactical.
This was the only concerning part of the race where I was like, what's happened?
So I think when it dropped to 4:40 earlier, I was starting to need a toilet break. I just had a bit too much fluid and I was just like the bladder was full. So I was like, all right, I think I've just got to kick. I've got to kick maybe 5 seconds a K for the next little bit. And then the 4:30, I saw a toilet up ahead. So I was like, I'm going to push to that. So that was probably about a 500 meter, not all out, but it was like, I probably was sitting at 4:11, 4:15s or whatever. Knowing that I was going to probably blow a minute in the toilet. So
sure.
I was just banking time. So then you see that roll over into the 5:09 in the next one. That was the toilet break. So
beautiful.
Yeah, the net. Yeah, we were okay, but I didn't mean to panic you, and I'm sorry about that.
I mean, there's bound to be a couple of panic moments throughout a marathon, I'm sure, but that was just the first one. And then you've gone through, so 21.1K, you've hit an hour 41:17. So obviously the goal, or the old PB at 3 hours, 28 minutes, I was very confident that on a good day you were going to beat that. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be by as much as it was or slightly less. We can get into that later and how much of a good result it was specifically because of a couple of things that took place. You're on track here. I thought, okay, we want to see you roll home that last 12K especially. So 21K, you're at, say, 3:22 pace pretty much. 25Ks, you've brought the average back down to 4:41s and then 4:48s to 30. And then let's just have a look at this last 12K. So from 30 to 35K, your average is 440.
Yep.
And how's the body feeling at this point? Are you thinking, all right, I'm struggling, I can build it up? Where's your head at? Where's your body at?
I was feeling okay. I knew that I was getting close to the limit of pace. And I don't know why, but I didn't feel like I had heaps in me. But I felt if I stayed at that pace, I could go for a long time. Like I was confident at that pace I could just keep going. So that was good to know. I also ran past some people on the side of the track that I wasn't expecting to see, just some sort of people from work who were down supporting someone else. So they gave me a bit of a kick as well. So, and that lasts a couple of Ks, that little bit of a buzz. So I felt good, but I knew if I went too far, then I could blow up in that last 5. So I was feeling pretty good, but I also, having run Melbourne before, I knew that they trick you. You're on St Kilda Road. The MCG really is about 2 kilometres away, but your watch says more, and you know that there's more loops coming, and they tend to take you around through like the botanical gardens and up past the Shrine of Remembrance, and that's deceptively undulating. So I knew that was coming. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to smash it too hard. So felt good, but I was tactically waiting.
Were you in a group at this stage, or are you running solo?
At this point, another frustrating moment was when the half marathon sort of joined up with the full. So at this point, I was back to ducking and weaving again, because it was kind of the tail end of the half. Well, not the tail end, but people kind of running at 2 kilometers and a half or 2 hours and a half. So my pace was definitely off with theirs. So I was having to duck and weave again. So I had to pull away from a group that I was running in just to get through the crowd again, to get some clean air again. So a little bit of a tricky one, but that's okay. I expected that. It always happens.
Yeah. And okay, so that makes sense, because from 35 to 38.1K, it says your pace dropped from 440 to 458. So you're still feeling relatively good, just dodging, weaving, a little bit of caution.
Over the undulation as well. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And then, okay, so you hit 40, and then from 38Ks to 40Ks, this is your fastest average split for these 2Ks. It was a 437 average, which I was pumped to see. From this point, I was thinking, all right, he's making a massive run for home. Was really keen to find out what was going on there. And then that last 2.2K, you held on to a 450 to say, as I said, 3 hours, 21 minutes, 30 seconds, which is a great result. Were you like, when you crossed the line, what was were you stoked? Were you happy? Were you thinking that's about where I was at? What was your mindset?
Yeah, I think I felt like I felt really great. So I made a really conscious effort, like, because I was feeling pretty good this time around. Usually at a marathon, at that point you're almost gone, and you kind of forget to actually just take in the moment. So once I actually came onto the MCG, I actually slowed the pace down quite a lot, because I was like, all right, PB is in the bank. I got heaps of time. I wasn't going to make sub 320, so it was like, what am I sprinting for? So I just really took that last sort of 300 meters around the MCG to just look up, look around, just take in the crowd, because it was probably the biggest I've ever seen it there. And managed to see my partner and my in-laws in the crowd, and my best mate Brody came down, which was lovely to see. So I managed to spot them, gave them a wave, and finished it off nicely. So that's something that I was really conscious to never try and take for granted and not forget it. So I'm really glad I did that. It meant that I probably finished 30 seconds slower than I would have, but who cares, really? Like, at the end of the day, it was cool to see that, and I can actually vividly remember it still, pretty much every step of that last lap, which was awesome. So, yeah, it was cool.
That's a cool attitude to take. It's very cool.
Yeah. So happy with the 6.5 minutes.
It's one of those situations. Sorry, bro.
No, you're
sorry,
right,
brother. No, you go. It's the blessing. It's the blessing and the curse of these online podcasts. Every now and then, I think you've finished and go to jump in. No, you've got the bat, and it's yours to run with.
Saying I was stoked to get a 6.5 minute PB. That was I've been chasing that for years, to be honest. Almost like 7 years. 2015 was when I ran my fastest. And then for what are like underprepared in other marathons, coming in like with a little bit of an injury, or getting a bit sore mid race, or really hot in 2018, which sucked. I think you were there as well. So it was 7 years.
To talk about
it. So many years of just battling it out, trying to get a PB. I was pretty damn stoked. Yeah, really happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was really happy too. I was even more happy because I think even on the day, like I often see it as like there's different ways you can view it. Obviously, we've got the lead up, which we can talk about in a minute.
Yep.
But then you actually have how the race played out, and
Yep.
as good as the race was, and as good as the result was, and as much as I was pumped, and as much as we should fist pump and high five and whatever, it's like, okay, you look at the result and you go, oh, there's 2.5 minutes there.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like Melbourne's not recognised for being a notoriously fast course.
Yep.
I know Liam Adams didn't have his best day out, but he's a 2:08 man, and he ran 2:15.
Yep.
I know he sort of burnt his bridges towards the last little part, but even Ryan Gregson, I can imagine these boys running faster than what they did. And even just from the history of the course, it's not a course you necessarily go to try and run an absolute belter.
Nah.
So, I mean,
it's not conducive.
What we have to work with is obviously toilet stops, a little bit overhydration, the fact that you had to stop there. The actual lineup factor, like where you were, the fact that you were having to weave in and out of crowds.
Absolutely.
The hills and undulation. I mean, just those in themselves is an easy 2 minutes, which gives us our sub 3:20, which I've got absolutely no doubt in my mind, especially now you can run. I was saying to you the other day that when you're running 6.5-minute PBs in the marathon, it suggests we haven't quite fine-tuned things down to a point where we're like, oh, okay, that's the limit. Like 6.5 minutes suggests, okay, well, first of all, we're doing something right. But second of all, okay, we've got plenty more, which is really exciting to me, and I'm sure it's super exciting to you. But
absolutely,
for sure. So, the lead up, man. The lead up was a very interesting one, and I think I've said this on the podcast before. You're one athlete that I know exactly when we started working together, because I was standing in the maternity ward at the Geelong Hospital. Jesse had just had our second little guy, Ollie, and I said, "Hey, excuse me for a minute, babe. You look after little Ollie. I've got a new athlete to look after." We'll speak in half an hour, which went down really well. Actually, could have something to do with the fact she's not bothered cheering for you on your marathon race day, based on the fact that she still holds grudges against me. Very, very fair.
I apologize.
I would say I can't remember specific dates. I can't remember, but we had a specific 16-week build-up. But obviously, you were well and truly consistent with your running before then. Your say first 8 weeks, or maybe seven weeks, we were laughing about the fact you just could not miss a beat. You were just ticking weeks off the list like it was absolutely nothing. And then just walk us through what happened, because you had a little bit of a shake-up where you were doing a lot of cross-training for sort of probably three and a little bit weeks, maybe 4.
Yeah, I think it was. So I did in the lead up. I had a lead up run just to test myself out at the Run Melbourne half marathon. And I got a 4-minute PB for the half marathon there. Well done, everybody. Thank you. So that was a huge moment, and I really felt confident there. Like my body was back. So it's been a long 2.5 years to get where I'm at. So I was really stoked with that. And then the following, so that was the Sunday, and then I had a pretty light sort of Monday, Tuesday, and then the Wednesday I went out just for an easy run, I think, and just felt a little tweak in the calf, like really low down towards the ankle, and then that was a bit of inflammation that I went straight to the osteo for, and it turned out to be kind of like an alignment with my hip, knee and ankle was a little bit out, so it had caused that in the run. So we had to back off for a few weeks, which wasn't ideal, but kept it under wraps. Was very diligent. You kept me on the straight and narrow. Kept telling me it was going to be all right, which was good.
For sure. Yeah. So I would say that was one area that obviously, I mean, this isn't news to you, but for everyone listening, that was one area that I think we had a lot of room for improvement as well. Because unfortunately, where it fell was kind of where I had scheduled a lot of your much longer runs. So we had gradually been building up. You were pretty consistently, you were ticking over 20, then it was 22s, then it was 24s, then it was 26s. And I like the idea of getting you up well and truly over sort of that 30K mark. I was ideally in a perfect lead up. I was thinking I would have loved for you to get sort of 4 or 5, maybe even 6 runs, potentially between sort of 32 to 36Ks, not necessarily towards that upper threshold of that. And as a result, we missed a few. You still got, what was it, 2
Yeah,
I think maybe 3 over 30.
Yeah, I reckon.
There was one at 28, one at 30. I remember
30 and a
there was
32,
something.
I think.
Yeah, and I was flirting a little bit. I mean, even 2 weeks out, you just got back from a trip with Kath.
Yep.
Kath
Yep.
or
Kath.
Kat?
Nah, Kath. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you got back, and I mean, 2 weeks out is probably closer than I'd usually like to give out a run of this distance. But we scheduled you in for like a 30 to 34K run.
Yep.
And part of that was because I think psychologically for you, it's nice to have the opportunity to really stretch the legs out for what is relatively close to race distance. Because always that last 8K is a really interesting one. But I mean, I was a little hesitant with that because I was thinking, it's closer than I would like it to be for a run this length. But at the same time, because we'd missed so much in the build up and so much of that distance, I thought I'd be the good would outweigh the bad. So I mean, it seems as though that last and after that, like we had a relatively light, or maybe the biggest session was on that Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I think we had
Thursday. We might have pushed it out too.
I think we might have had like a 15K sort of tempo-ish one on the Thursday.
I think it was the Thursday, yeah.
And then a pretty easy weekend, and then back to that last week. But that long run coming back from Thailand didn't feel like it was unachievable or dangerous because I'd had kind of like a mini 10-day taper while in Thailand.
Sure.
So in my mind, the body was actually quite rested. I did some running while I was over there, but nothing huge, just nice, easy runs by the beach, which was kind of a little bit of paradise for me. So coming back doing the 30, the body didn't feel like it was being pushed or it was fatigued. It was actually quite a nice thing to wake back up again.
For sure.
Yeah, so I felt like that actually helped. News. Yeah.
So post-race, Sunday night, you're sitting there, you're reflecting, celebrating a 6.5 minute PB.
Yeah.
Like, your thoughts on, okay, hey, what went really well in the lead up, and next time, what do we need to refine? What do we need to improve?
Yeah. Like you said, the first 8 weeks, I think, were just pretty much flawless. I think that was probably the best 8-week block of running I've ever done. And it was because we had such a big base before that. It was November last year when I started running under you. So so November to like July, that's a fair block of base building. So I felt really good there. That little injury, I don't know, I think unavoidable. I don't think I'm holding myself too accountable to that one. That was just obviously hip alignment. So maybe some more focus in the gym now. And that's kind of where I'm going to go after, like, into the summer. It'll focus back on getting the body back in line, treating it kindly again, and building up some strength and mobility and function. So that's definitely something I need to focus on a bit more now in the summer, in the off time, I think. But yeah, as far as dealing with the injury, felt pretty good. I think I was tempted to push it, but I didn't, and I really learnt that, and we got a good result from that. So I think that's a mistake I won't make again. Thank gosh. Because that's why I came to you in the first place. I kept making those darn mistakes. So yeah, that's a big benefit of getting a coach, folks. Just having someone else in your head for a change is quite nice. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm biased obviously because I mean, maybe you and I both are based on the job title that we both have. I mean, you're doing your coaching, you've got athletes that you're coaching as well. But I don't know how you feel, but I often felt that throughout my running career, it was always, especially towards the end, it was like, okay, I know what training my coach is going to set me. I know exactly what he's going to say. I know what the session will be. I know why he's going to set it. But it was more just that mentor role. Like,
absolutely.
Even it's so funny, isn't it? There's a difference between having the knowledge and actually having the emotional control to actually be able to go, okay, well, you're dealing with a niggle here.
Yep.
It's so dumb. I mean, I perhaps I need to follow my own advice and get some coaching, because I was laughing at the fact that I was in a rush to get myself organized. And I was like, there is no way I'll treat any of my athletes the way I'm treating my own body right now. And as a result, paid the price. Yeah. And it's the exact reason I had a coach for so long is because I need someone to go, hey, dickhead, stop. You know you're doing the wrong thing. But when it's just you and your own brain, it's so easy to go, nah, I'm sure it'll be right. I'm a machine. I'll get through this. Yeah. And then the next week you have to post on Strava, okay, there's a calf strain again. I humbly apologize to everyone. But yeah, no, it is really interesting. But yeah, as I said, I'm biased, but that's the benefit I often see. It's just the fact that it's someone to keep you on the straight and narrow when you've got the temptation, which distance runners have the reputation for having, to go out and do something crazy.
Yeah, that's true. And like sometimes it works the opposite way too. Like there was times when I was like, oh, I think I'm starting to get a bit tired here, but like if it was just me, I would back off. But you would chuck in just that little bit of extra spice into a session. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know, it's a bit, but I'll give it a go. Trust him. And then doing that session, it clicked and it took me to the next level. So sometimes when you're doing your own plan, whilst you can sometimes go too far, you can also back off at the wrong times too. So it's really good to have that other person that is just looking at the data and your feedback, and then not actually in your own head, sort of doubting yourself or pushing yourself, which is nice. So that was really good.
No, that's good to hear. It is, and for context for everyone listening. So, as we said, but you were just, there were weeks where you just absolutely nailing sessions, and I mean, like volume. We had some pretty similar session structures. Like we were dancing through the monofartleks, we were dancing through some thresholds, some slightly more intense thresholds of like 2K reps, 3K reps, and then your intervals of 1Ks and stuff from time to time.
Yep.
And you were just ticking boxes left, right, and center. And every now and then I always find it nice just to go, okay, well, we've had 4 weeks of pretty solid running. Like he's handling this well, which is where I'd like to sprinkle a little bit of spice in just once and just see how it was handled. And then I always get excited on a Monday morning when I that's usually the day I go and have a good look at Training Peaks and click inside the details of training sessions and see what everyone's been up to. And you are one profile I love clicking on because quite often you scroll through the details, you're like, okay, we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that I really admired about your build-up was just the way you handled yourself throughout that 3-week block where things weren't perfect, where you couldn't run, because it can be quite stressful if you allow it to be, regardless of what level we run at, when you've got this idea of what a perfect preparation looks like. Absolutely. And all of a sudden 3 weeks of cross-training is thrown at you and you have to acknowledge, okay, this is no longer ideal preparation, but we have to just navigate our way through and make it work. Like, how are you navigating that emotionally? Because every time I spoke to you, you sounded relatively relaxed about the whole thing, which I was for sure. But I mean, it's different from my shoes to yours.
Yeah. To be honest, the first week I felt totally fine. I was like expecting it. I was like, it's 16 weeks of flawless preparation is just, it never happens. No one ever happens to that. Like that, Kipchoge doesn't even get there, right? So, in my mind, when I first did the injury, I was like, all right, a week, that's fine. It'll calm down. It's just a little tension, maybe an inflammation. It's fine. And then the end of the first week started to roll around. I was like, okay, this is stubborn. And I'm not looking forward to doing another week. So that's when I booked in with the osteo. And then it was that end of that first week, he was like, oh yeah, no, you'll be back in about 2 weeks, I'd say. And that's when my heart hit the floor, because I was like, 2 weeks, that's then going to be 3. That's nearly a month of a build-up, and it's towards the pointy end of that build-up. And it was a little bit of panic. But then I was like, well, I can still get on the bike. I can still do gym and mobility stuff as long as I don't load that ankle too much. And so I knew there was still stuff to do. If I had to just totally stop, that would have freaked me out no end. So being able to keep busy helped so much.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And outside of obviously the strength, mobility, and things that you just mentioned, have you got your eyes cast on anything at the moment? Is there any races or marathons in the future you're looking at? I say this with an asterisk next to it. I'm flirting with the idea of going up to Gold Coast next year, but I'm also taking a lot more of a slower approach. I'm just going to get out there and enjoy running for a few months, and then I'll make decisions. But I like the idea of either a half or a full up at Gold Coast, which I'm trying to entice, or I'd like to entice you to come up, because speaking of fast courses, I feel like that's one you could do a bit of damage at. And I mean, whether it's the next race or in the next few races, I've got no doubt that 3-hour barrier is well and truly under threat. When we not necessarily even nail the preparation, but just when we get a bit used to just that long, consistent running, getting it in your legs, getting the course, getting you in the right spot, just nailing a few little bits and pieces that we didn't quite nail, but we did relatively well.
Yeah, we learned a lot of lessons. I was actually thinking about that. Like any runner, you guys will all understand this, but I think I got across the finish line on Sunday, and you get the medal, you do the celebration, you kind of cool down, and then it was Sunday night in the hotel. I was like, what next? And I was like, no, get out of that. Like, just sit in this for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, stop trying to race the next race. You've only just,
sure.
you're still sore. Like,
Yeah.
so there was a little bit of that. And then it was kind of like, today I was like, all right, what? I've got to talk to Tice tonight. And I know he's probably going to ask me what's next. And I probably should have an answer. So, like, obviously, marathons for sure. That's the pet event. That's where I want to aim at. Well, I don't know when the Gold Coast exactly falls. So, I imagine that it'd have to be a fly up, fly back. That'd be a pretty express weekend. Because I've got my wedding in April next year.
I think it's like June or...
Oh, is it middle of the year? So I got my wedding in April. So that's going to be a little bit of time off. That's all right. And then I've got my honeymoon in September. So that's time off work that I'll have to take. So it might have to be, if I'm going to go up for the weekend, It's going to be pretty quick. I might be able to take the Monday off. So it's tempting.
Dude, we'll talk more. As you say, while leagues are still tender, it's probably too early to plan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But as for like what events to go to next, I don't know. It's sort of, I had a picture of sort of the summer being hot. I real struggle in the heat, so maybe shortening the distance down and working a bit on speed. Maybe getting up to quicker 10Ks and stuff like that. Really getting like a bit more power and in there. And then I know April, the first Ballarat marathon's on. So whether I even aim for a half marathon there or something, I'm not sure. Have a couple of weeks to think it through, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
A little food for thought.
Yeah.
Nah, awesome, man. Well, hey, I won't take up your whole evening, but dude, I'm pumped. I was excited to get you on here and break that down because I know it's really interesting, not just for me to ask the questions, but for people to hear about the preparation of a marathon runner, especially when the results are so positive on your end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge plus for me because it makes me look real good as a coach having an athlete run 6.5 minute PB. But the credit's all yours, and obviously, as I say, we just partnered up on the same mission, which has been fun. So the first 12 months has been awesome. I'm really pumped to see whether it's sort of 5 or 10K or marathon again in the next 12 months. It's going to be exciting to have this chat in 12 months' time and find out where you're at.
Yeah, it'd be good. Work on some speed and some strength over the summer, and then we'll chase down that elusive sub-3 one day for sure.
Come on,
that's the goal.
For sure.
That's the goal. I'm only 33. I've still got a few years to chase it, I reckon. So
dude, Kipchoge's 57. He's still running 201. You're fine.
Yeah, but a 23-year-old just smashed him out of the park. So who knows what's going on anymore?
Isn't that wild?
It's nuts.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be a good Olympics next year. That's for sure.
Here we go. To say the least.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll leave you to it. Thanks so much for jumping on and sharing that with us.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Cheers.
All right. See you later.
Ta.
See everyone.